All right, so what does it mean when Bill and Hillary Clinton spend weeks refusing congressional subpoenas about Jeffrey Epstein, then suddenly agree to testify with one major condition, that it must be completely public, televised on camera for the entire country to watch?
President Trump is directing the Justice Department to investigate Democrats allegedly connected to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Files subpoenaed from the sex offender's estate show Epstein was actively shopping his political and financial knowledge to major players even after he was convicted on sex trafficking charges. The president has denied any wrongdoing and any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Now he says questions into his relationship with Epstein are a scam, quote, with all arrows pointing to the Democrats, and that he cut ties with Epstein after Epstein's 2019 arrest.
When their lawyer writes to House Oversight Chair James Comer saying, an open hearing will best suit our concerns about fairness. When Republicans who were threatening contempt of Congress charges suddenly find themselves in a situation where they either give the Clintons the public platform they're demanding or look like they're afraid of what might come out. When this reversal happens at exact moment, Trump's DOJ under Pam Bondi is being accused of selectively releasing Epstein files to damage Democrats while protecting Trump and his allies. When Trump himself is reportedly panicking because the last thing he wants is Bill Clinton on national television discussing Epstein's network of powerful enablers, which could implicate Trump given his own documented friendship with Epstein. Yeah, that means we might be watching one of the most brilliant political chess moves in recent memory, where the Clintons turned what should have been their scandal into potential trap for Trump by demanding the very transparency that Republicans claimed they wanted. And here's why this matters so much. Because this whole investigation was supposed to be easy Republican win. Subpoena the Clintons about their Epstein connections, which are real and documented through flight logs and photographs. Make them squirm. Release damaging testimony. Use it to attack Democrats heading into 2026 midterms. Simple playbook. But the Clintons just flipped the entire script by saying, okay, we'll testify, but it has to be public. And that one demand might have transformed Republican investigation into potential nightmare for Trump, because if the Clintons appear on live television and answer every question without flinching, if they demonstrate complete transparency about their Epstein connections, then the obvious question becomes, why isn't Trump's DOJ providing the same transparency with the Epstein files they're supposedly releasing? Think about what that means. Trump's Justice Department, run by Attorney General Pam Bondi, was supposed to release everything about Epstein under bipartisan legislation Congress passed and Trump signed. Bondi promised maximum transparency. Millions of pages have started coming out, including photographs of Clinton with Epstein, flight logs showing Clinton on Epstein's plane. Republicans are celebrating because it makes Democrats look bad. But survivors and Democratic lawmakers are accusing the DOJ of cherry-picking releases, of going slow on anything that might implicate Trump or his allies, of providing selective rather than complete transparency. And now the Clintons are volunteering for complete public transparency while Trump's DOJ is being accused of hiding information. That's devastating optics for Trump. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you appreciate what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. All right, let's get back to the video. Now let's walk through the timeline of how this situation developed, because the sequence of events reveals the strategic brilliance of what the Clintons just did. In January 2026, House Oversight Committee issued subpoenas to Bill and Hillary Clinton demanding testimony about their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. These weren't requests, these were legal orders to appear, and Comer made clear that failure to comply would result in contempt of Congress charges, which could mean jail time. That's serious legal jeopardy. On January 13th, the Clintons responded by letter saying the subpoenas were legally invalid, that they'd already provided all relevant information in writing, and that they wouldn't be appearing. They essentially told Congress to pound sand, and Republicans went ballistic. Comer went on TV saying the Clintons were obstructing justice and acting like they're above the law. The entire Republican media ecosystem jumped on the story. The Clintons are hiding something, they're scared, they're guilty. That narrative ran for weeks. Then on February 2nd and 3rd, everything changed. The Clintons' lawyer wrote to Comer agreeing that Hillary would sit for film deposition on February 26th and Bill on February 27th. Comer immediately declared victory, issuing statements saying the Clintons completely caved and would appear for transcribed filmed depositions. He made it sound like total Republican win, like they'd forced the Clintons into submission through threat of contempt charges. But buried in that same letter was the condition that might change everything. An open hearing will best suit our concerns about fairness. The Clintons weren't just agreeing to closed-door depositions where Republicans could selectively leak damaging snippets. They were demanding public hearing, televised, where the entire exchange would be visible to everyone. No edited transcripts, no selective leaks, no spin, just complete transparency where Americans could watch and judge for themselves. Share this video with everyone you know because here's where the strategic genius becomes apparent. In closed-door deposition, Republicans control the narrative. They get the full transcript, but public only sees the parts Republicans choose to release. They can make the Clintons look guilty regardless of what was actually said by selecting the most damaging quotes out of context. That's standard congressional hearing playbook. But in public hearing, everyone sees everything. The questions, the answers, the tone, the context. You can't edit it, you can't spin it, it just is. So, if the Clintons answer every question directly, if they explain their Epstein connections in ways that, while perhaps not great, aren't criminal, if they look honest and forthcoming, then they win. They look transparent. They look like they faced their accusers openly. And Republicans look like they were running political hit job that backfired. That's the bet the Clintons are making, that they can handle the questions in public setting and come out looking better than if Republicans controlled the narrative through selective leaks. But here's where it gets even more devastating for Trump. Because this strategy doesn't just protect the Clintons, it might expose Trump's own Epstein cover-up. Trump's DOJ is supposed to be releasing everything about Epstein, but the releases have been slow, selective, and heavily redacted. Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia and others have been demanding answers about why certain information is being withheld, why releases are taking so long, who's being protected by the redactions. And now the Clintons are saying, we'll testify publicly about our Epstein connections. At the exact same time, Trump's DOJ is being accused of hiding Epstein information. That creates impossible comparison for Trump. If the Clintons are willing to sit before Congress and answer questions on live television, why isn't Trump's Justice Department releasing everything? What are they hiding? Who are they protecting? Those questions become unavoidable if the Clintons follow through on public testimony. And Trump knows his own Epstein connections are vulnerable to scrutiny. There are photographs of Trump with Epstein. There are quotes where Trump called Epstein terrific guy who likes them on the younger side. There are records showing Trump flew on Epstein's plane. Trump has tried distancing himself by claiming he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after falling out. But the connection is documented. So if Bill Clinton starts talking publicly about Epstein's network of powerful enablers, about who knew what when, about how these relationships worked, Trump's name will come up. That's guaranteed. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show because Trump can't attack the Clintons for being transparent without people asking why he isn't being transparent. He can't criticize them for testifying publicly without people asking why his DOJ is still withholding documents. He can't make this about the Clintons' Epstein connections without it becoming about everyone's connections, including his own. That's the trap. That's why he might be panicking. And Comer is stuck too. If he agrees to public hearing the Clintons requested, they get the transparency they want, they control their own narrative, they look brave and honest. But if he refuses and insists on closed-door depositions, it looks like Republicans are scared of public scrutiny, like they only want transparency when they can control what information gets released. Either choice has problems for Republicans. The Clintons are betting that Republicans won't want full public hearing because full public airing of Epstein connections might implicate people Republicans want to protect. Like Trump, like business leaders who fund Republican campaigns, like anyone in Trump's orbit who appears in those files that Bondi's DOJ is managing so carefully. If you start pulling on Epstein threads publicly, you might unravel connections that powerful people on both sides want kept quiet. But by demanding public hearing, the Clintons are daring Republicans to pull those threads, betting that Republicans will blink first. And here's the brilliant part. The Clintons don't even need the public hearing to actually happen for this strategy to work. If Comer agrees to it, they get their transparency and can potentially clear their names or at least explain their connections in context. But if Comer refuses, if he insists on closed-door depositions, then the Clintons can say, "We wanted to testify publicly, they wouldn't let us, what are they hiding?" That puts Republicans on defensive, makes them look like they're protecting someone, makes their entire investigation seem like partisan exercise rather than legitimate oversight. And either way, the pressure on Trump's DOJ to release everything increases dramatically. Because if the Clintons are willing to be completely open, if they're volunteering for public testimony, then Bondi's selective releases look even more suspicious. It becomes impossible to defend why certain information is being withheld, why redactions are so heavy, why releases are so slow. The comparison between Clinton transparency and Trump opacity becomes the story. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Nobody in power probably wants the full Epstein story to come out. Not the Clintons, not Trump, not anyone. Because Epstein had connections everywhere. Democrats, Republicans, business leaders, celebrities, academics. His network was comprehensive. And if you start truly investigating everyone he connected with, everyone who enabled him, everyone who should have known what was happening, the web extends to uncomfortable places for people across the political spectrum. That's why Epstein investigations have always been incomplete. That's why the 2007 DOJ investigation that Vance referenced was very bad, according to his own admission, because prosecutors might have been protecting their friends. That's why the files are being released selectively now, because complete transparency would implicate too many powerful people. The system protects itself, but the Clintons just bet that they can survive public scrutiny better than Trump can. They're betting that their Epstein connections, while embarrassing and deserving of questions, aren't criminal in ways that would destroy them. And they're betting that forcing comparison between their transparency and Trump's opacity gives them political advantage even if the testimony itself isn't comfortable. So, here's where we are. The Clintons agreed to testify about Epstein on February 26th and 27th with explicit request for public hearing. Comer claims this is Republican victory, but the Clintons potentially just checkmated him by demanding the transparency that makes Republicans uncomfortable. Trump is reportedly panicking because public Clinton testimony could force scrutiny of his own Epstein connections and his DOJ's selective file releases. And Republicans are stuck choosing between giving the Clintons the public platform they want or looking like they're afraid of full transparency. The scheduled depositions are just weeks away. Whether they'll be public or closed door remains to be seen. But the strategic move is already made. The Clintons transformed their vulnerability into potential weapon by volunteering for the very transparency Republicans claimed they wanted. And now everyone waits to see if Republicans actually want that transparency or if they only wanted it when they could control the narrative. If you want to stay on top of stories like this, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Do you think the Clintons' demand for public hearing is brilliant strategy or desperate gamble? And should Trump's DOJ release everything about Epstein without redactions? Because honestly, this situation reveals that transparency is a weapon that cuts both ways. The Clintons are betting it cuts Trump deeper than it cuts them. Share this with everyone because we might finally get some actual answers about Epstein's network, or we might just get another exercise in selective transparency designed to protect the powerful. Either way, the February depositions will tell us a lot about who's actually willing to face the truth publicly. Stay tuned.